President Trump and Kim Jong-un's historic meeting back on the negotiating table.
We're talking to them now. They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it. We're going to see what happens.
Donald Trump has complete control of the situation. The left is desperate at this point. He does make this deal, and he will. They will have to not only eat crow.
Not just Fox, where they are essentially delivering propaganda. We need more people to speak up and speak out, and we need more outlets.
You don't give up. You don't give in. You don't back down. And you never surrender. God bless America. And anchors away.
Griff decides to jump in the pool to do what the dogs were doing. Gets his shoulder dislocated.
The sling is gone. It's gone.
Goodbye.
You think it looks good. Imagine what it smells like.
We can smell it because we are outside this hour. We can smell the barbecue smoke lingering over here.
And we will soon be consuming it. And if you're in the tri-state area, come on out to the plaza. The Fox and Friends Barbecue Extravaganza.
Guess what? Pete didn't wear a belt today just so his pants could stretch as far as possible, like a Thanksgiving meal.
They're already expanding. And I have the meat sweats.
I'm excited because I can pick up that tomahawk steak with my left hand now, sling free. Looking good. Consume barbecue with both hands.
That is some good news. And by the way, it's not prom here on the show. I was looking at our outfits. We are so color coordinated this morning with the blue and the yellow. People must think that we talk about it before. We don't.
We don't, actually.
We just start thinking alike as people.
And I've been attacked on the Twitter sphere, surprise, surprise, for not wearing yellow, but the blue tie does match.
Perfectly.
But you do have your New York City hair. It looks fantastic.
It's been compared to New York City hair, but also Reagan hair.
Yes.
Ooh,
so
that's a nice
hair,
compliment.
Know.
All right. Well, it is
like
Memorial Weekend, of course, so we are honoring people that have lost their lives fighting for our freedom, but also the grills are going. But there's a lot of news to get to.
Yeah, summer is coming. The news will never stop, and news on North Korea never stops. And one day the summit's on, the next day the summit isn't. Now the summit may be back on. We don't know. President Trump yesterday talking to reporters at the White House, it seems, after he sent that letter that said, you know, we're out, that North Korea came back and said, maybe we want back in. Listen to what the president said.
We're going to see what happens. We're talking to them now. It was a very nice statement they put out. We'll see what happens. It could even be the 12th. We're talking to them now. They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it. We're going to see what happens.
Now, you know, I've covered this all week long for you guys, for Fox and Friends, and, you know, the stakes, it's important to give this context, the stakes could not be higher. We are talking about the security of the world and essentially the denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula, and the president clearly showing that his handling of this seems like, well, we'll see what happens, but really there is certainly a very determined strategy behind it. You do see, pay attention to South Korea, they are indicating their confidence in the process is playing out. And Brett Velikovich on Hannity here having this to say, sort of talk specifically to that. Take a listen.
If we've learned anything in the last 24 hours is that the president's chess move worked. I mean, look, if this was the same administration that worked the Iran deal, we'd be begging and pleading for them to come to the negotiation table over and over again just to get them to sign some paper. You know, that's a weak deal in the end. And so what we're seeing here is a very significant event that is playing out on the world stage. And I think the president, in the end, did the right thing here.
When you listen to the president's tone, you can tell he wants this meeting to happen. But listening to Brett there, when it comes to diplomacy, these things take time. It is always a delicate balance. What I will say is communication is the most important part of these negotiations, because right now, Kim Jong-un and President Trump aren't talking on the phone. They're talking through each other's media outlets. So if the president's having his team out there talking about what's going on, the vice president and John Bolton, for example, and they do mention it being like the Libya operation, you've got to be careful about that, because Kim Jong-un, he is listening. What you remember from Libya is that Gaddafi was killed. So you understand where North Korea, they're saying, we don't want that to happen to us here. So you got to make sure everyone is on the same page when they are out there communicating their message, that they're all on board.
Absolutely, and you've got to stand firm. When North Korea puts out a foolish statement like they did, trying to play the old games they have, Trump puts out a letter and says, we're out, we're done. You know my phone number, call me if you want to. And a lot of the pundits can't ignore that. The bravado. They jump at that and say, there's no strategy here. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, as Griff, as you mentioned, Abby. He's got a great team. They're focused on this. They're clear-eyed about Kim Jong-un and what he wants. And they know how tough it's going to be. It's not, no one's preemptively giving anyone the Nobel Peace Prize. We get this is going to be a tough, long process, but let it play out.
Yeah, and everyone should hope for success.
Of course.
In the end.
Let me also get to the other story. Revelations that an FBI informant possibly inserted into the Trump campaign in 2016. And of course, former CIA Director John Brennan has been very vocal on this and attacking the president. Let me play this for you and give you a little context.
I think it's very typical of Mr. Trump to mischaracterize. He's a master of mischaracterization and dishonesty. To label someone as a spy when they're a confidential human source, I think, is doing a disservice to these individuals, but also to the FBI. But again, this is something that Mr. Trump is, as you said, masterful at in terms of twisting the truth in order to support his narrative.
Wait, twisting? From the guy who's twisting away. I mean, call it what you want. Informant, source, what's the word he uses all the time? Confidential human source, that may be the technical term.
How about just a spy?
How about spy? The president calls it Spygate. Why didn't they tell? We were doing this for your own good. So we put someone into the campaign to contact your people, to probe them on Russia. Then we didn't tell you about it, even though it was for your defense. I mean, that is the definition of espionage. Call it what you want. But now that they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they're making up explanations, they're counter-accusing, they're nitpicking, and they're using verbiage, language, to say it wasn't spying, it was a confidential human source.
You know what? It's frustrating, I think, for a lot of people with John Brennan, who used to run the CIA, is how political he has become. Because these are positions, when you run the CIA, when you run the FBI, it is supposed to be a nonpartisan job. There is the utmost respect for whoever runs those groups. And here he is, from day one, he has been against President Trump. He's called him a number of different things. And I think you just got to be careful in that role, that the American people at a certain point don't want it to get political.
Well,
wait for the facts to come out.
Can't allow it to be.
Here's what matters, and that is that we are now going to find out, because we're talking about a covert operation to gather information. Now, whatever you call that, we are going to hear from many of the people at the FBI, including, pay attention to this, Bill Priestap. Now, he was the head of the counterintelligence at the FBI, may still be. He hasn't been fired. I'm not sure what he does there, but we've learned from a House committee, the Judiciary and Oversight Committee, Congressman Gowdy and Goodlatte are going to interview Priestap and a few other officials and go back to these origins and say, what was this informant? Pay attention. That's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, a lot going on this morning. I want to bring you some other headlines that we are following closely this morning. A teacher is being hailed a hero for tackling a school shooter inside an Indiana classroom, saving countless lives. This is Jason Seaman, reportedly shot 3 times as he swatted the firearm out of the gunman's hand at Noblesville West Middle School. Watch this.
I'm really grateful for him to be there, because without him, I'm not sure if all of us would have made it.
A bullet striking 13-year-old Ella Whistler, seen right there, just moments before Seaman's fearless takedown in his 7th grade science room. The teen, luckily, is in stable condition. The 29-year-old teacher, he is recovering and is said to be in good condition. Seaman, a husband, a father of 2, also coaches football at that school. The unidentified gunman is in custody. The motive still remains unclear. Also this, disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein out on bail. Weinstein posting $1 million after turning himself into police. He is being charged with rape and sexual abuse. He now must wear a GPS device wherever he goes. Dozens of women have accused him of sexual crimes. Weinstein denies those accusations, but he now faces more than 37 years in prison. He must decide by Wednesday whether he will testify. And President Trump keeping yet another campaign promise. Listen to this.
We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. Drain the swamp.
The commander-in-chief signing 3 orders rolling back civil service protections, making it easier to fire poor-performing federal workers. White House officials say the president is honoring his pledge to cut red tape and promote a more efficient government. Pete is very excited about that story.
Love it.
And we can assure you our outdoor barbecue fest is not doing this. The Washington Post suggesting that Americans grill up carrots with a bun wrapped around it this holiday weekend instead, of course, of the usual hot dogs. They call it a plant-based alternative.
What in the devil's name is this?
Portobello mushrooms.
Where's the steak?
Oh, there's no steak. That's a healthier option. It's organically grown.
All right, so what do you think about a grilled hot dog shaped carrots? Email us, friends@foxnews.com, or let us know on Facebook and Twitter. I can only imagine Pete's response to this.
Well, I can imagine all of your response. I mean, you show up at a barbecue for Memorial Day weekend, and someone throws a carrot in between the buns,
and of course
tells you that it's
and
better
then charges
for you.
$12 for it.
$12, and then says, "No, this is yummier."
Yeah. I just love the
Only
response
the logic of the Washington Post.
of our producer Stephanie, who assumes since I'm from D.C., aka the swamp, I would like carrot hot dogs, and I might.
Abby, what about you? Carrot hot dogs?
It depends on what it's marinated in. No, but I'm a meat girl. I'm from Utah. I'm from the Wild West. You always take meat between a bun before you put a vegetable between a bun. That is a rule.
Yeah. Let us know. Friends at FoxNews.com.
Yeah.
What else could you put between the buns as a healthy alternative?
Yeah, and let us know if Pete should eat a hot dog with a carrot.
I think you should try it.
No.
Just to see.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Well, speaking of telling you what you can put into your mouth and how you should eat and what you can and cannot do, Nanny State Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of this city right here, had a few things to say, talking about why poor people need to be taxed. Listen to this.
Some people say, well, taxes are regressive. That's the good thing about them, because the problem is in people that don't have a lot of money. And so higher taxes should have a bigger impact on their behavior and how they deal with themselves. Well, we want the poor to live longer, so that they can get an education and enjoy life. If you raise taxes on full sugary drinks, for example, they will drink less, and there's just no question that full sugar drinks are one of the major contributors to obesity, and obesity is one of the major contributors to heart disease and cancer and a variety of other things.
It just speaks for itself.
Look, he's right about the obesity and the challenges this country faces, but people don't want to be told what they can and cannot do, and people also don't want to be told that their taxes are going to be raised.
No, and didn't this start for our youth? Young people have too much access to these, 76-ounce, 72-ounce sugary big gulps, and so we don't want children to have too much sugar. But he's just labeling it poor people. I think he missed it. He somehow jumped from children to all poor people because I'm a billionaire.
He did, but he also exposed what they actually think. How the left thinks about you. You're too dumb to make a decision for yourself. Ultimately, no, really. I'm a technocrat. I'm an expert. I'm a politician. I know better. The research shows that I should tell you to take that sugary drink out of your hand. Or you could just, as you said, Abby, just let people choose.
Yeah.
And poor people are smart too. And there's a lot of rich people that are dumb. Those assumptions are not.
You know what the beauty about this country, though, in a democracy, is people can go to the polls and they can vote.
Yeah.
You can say what you want to say, but ultimately, you can make your own decision of what you think the way forward is.
Mm-hmm. And we will do that all morning long.
You are sweating, Pete. Is it the meat sweats or are you hot?
It's both.
Meat sweat.
And I'm hungry, and the food's right there. I can barely concentrate. I don't know what I said for the last 12 minutes. The food's right there.
If you're in the area, come here. We've got so much food, so much barbecue. We will feed you this morning.
Well, the Pentagon is sending hundreds more National Guard troops to the border. But one union leader says the entire move, it's a waste. Is it? We'll talk to the head of the Customs and Border Protection next.
Plus, this little boy just finished the final days of school, and there was a big surprise, a big one, waiting for him. We're going to show you what happens. That is what you call a tease. That's coming up later on the show.
Welcome back. The Pentagon approving a move to send hundreds more National Guard troops to the border. But the Border Patrol Council's president, Brandon Judd, says National Guard's effort at the border has been a waste, telling the LA Times, quote, "The deployment has been a colossal waste of resources. We have seen no benefit. They're not allowed to be in the public eye. They're not allowed to be in our lookout and observation posts, even in Texas." Here to react is Acting Deputy Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Ronald Vitiello. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Thanks, Griff. It's good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, so what do you say to Brandon Judd, your union president, about his criticism about the Guard's deployment?
I would just tell all of your viewers that we're very grateful to have the support that the Guard brings to us on this Operation Guardian support. There's about 1,500 Guardsmen that are assigned to the effort. That means about 1,100 people on the ground. Aviation missions, monitoring cameras, monitoring sensor feeds, helping us do dispatch work. We're grateful for their support. They're allowing us to put more agents out on the line, and they're giving us more surveillance and more capability on the border. So 10 states are involved in sending missions to the border. So I think those guardsmen, those men and women, those patriots, on a day like Memorial Day need to be honored for their service, because we're going to remember everybody that sacrificed on our behalf. So we're grateful to have them. They've made about 4,000, directly attributed to them, about 4,000 arrests, almost 3,500 pounds of marijuana and other things that they've done for us. And we're going to continue building that capability and use them to their fullest extent.
But I think probably what, Mr. Commissioner, Brandon's getting to is that they've got handcuffs on them. They're being handcuffed. They can't fully engage. What do you say to that criticism?
We put them in roles that avoid them confronting anybody that's crossing the border. We had previous iterations of Guard support where we did actually put them on the border, but we've learned from those previous deployments in 2006 and 2008, and we're using them to the best extent possible. It keeps them out of harm's way, and it gives us the best kind of supporting the technology that we're using on the border and giving us more capability by putting agents out of the roles that they're filling back on the border.
Commissioner, I've got to get to the wall. You know, I was there with you in Laredo, and that's, of course, 200 plus miles of nautical river, very challenging. But even in some places there, you need wall. What is, for the entire southern border, the update on where this border wall stands?
So we're under construction right now. Santa Teresa, New Mexico, that's a 20-mile stretch. There's a 2-mile stretch under construction in Calexico, California, new border wall in those 2 locations. We're finalizing plans for 2 sections of wall in San Diego that we're going to replace the fencing that's at that 14 miles right there by the beach, and then the secondary fencing for there as well. And then the most volatile part of the border in the Rio Grande Valley, we're finalizing the plans to do construction there as well. So we're moving as fast as we can, as fast as the bureaucracy lets us, but we're already seeing new capability both in the El Paso sector and El Centro, California.
Commissioner, I want to ask you, because you started your career in Laredo on Monday. The Border Patrol will celebrate its 89th birthday. It was founded and first started its lookout in Laredo. When you hear Brandon Judd saying that it's a waste of resources there, and you started there in Laredo, can the mission that President Trump wants done, which is to finally secure this border, can it be done with the resources and the deployment of the National Guard that you currently have?
We need to continue to build these capabilities. We want operational control of the border. The president brought that mandate back to us. We're happy to give him action plans on how we're going to get there. We've gotten funding now for 18, and we're putting that into full use so that we can add capability and do more on the border. And we are grateful for the National Guard to be part of this new operational capability.
Commissioner, thank you very much. Ronald Vitiello, Deputy Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection. Thank you, sir, and happy birthday on Monday. And thank you for the service of all your agents out there keeping our border safe.
Thanks so much.
All right. President Obama says there weren't any scandals during his administration. But Mike Huckabee says most of his scandals didn't make headlines because the media protected him. The former governor joins us next. And is Vladimir Putin ready to ride off into the sunset? I love that shot. He just about revealed his political future. That's coming up.
Baby, I just gotta know, how long has this been?
Welcome back. A couple of quick headlines for you. Vladimir Putin stepping down as Russia's president in 2024. His decision out of respect for the Russian Constitution, which bans anyone from serving 2 consecutive terms. Putin stepping down as president once before. He stepped down as president once before in 2008, returning 4 years later after serving as prime minister, a move he could legally do again. We'll see. And Ireland seems to be moving away from its conservative Roman Catholic roots. Exit polls there predict that Irish voters will overturn the country's abortion ban today. New laws would allow terminations within the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. Official results are expected to be announced this afternoon, and we will bring them to you when they do.
All right, well, the canceled North Korea summit might still happen. President Trump even saying it could possibly still happen in Singapore on June 12th.
So is the president showcasing the art of the deal? Here with Insight, Fox News contributor, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, thanks for being here this morning. Really appreciate it. So where do we stand? The back and forth, the brinksmanship, it's high stakes. What do you make of the president's approach on North Korea right now?
Well, anybody who's read his book, The Art of the Deal, understands what's going on. This is a dance, but as is usually the case, Donald Trump is the one who is picking the tunes to dance by. And I think that Kim Jong-un got a real kind of rude awakening when he got the letter from the president that said, meeting's off. Which he said, by the way, that he was going to do if there didn't appear to be a way forward. And then when Kim Jong-un and the North Koreans began to really outrageously criticize Mike Pence and John Bolton and bring some rather bizarre things into the conversation, the president just said, okay, we won't have the meeting. That suddenly brought the North Koreans right back to the forum, and they started saying, well, maybe we should have the meeting, and we'll keep talking. President Moon in South Korea is putting a lot of pressure on. Whether this meeting happens June the 12th, I think there will be a meeting, and I think ultimately there will be some kind of positive resolve that will come from all of this, because, frankly, the North Koreans can't afford to take the risk that Donald Trump will take the action that they fear the most, and that is that he will destroy their nuclear capability.
Yeah, these things certainly take time. All right, on a different topic I know that you are likely fired up about, former President Barack Obama making some jokes recently at a tech conference talk where he says he doesn't have any scandals. Take a listen.
That's a read, actually.
Oh, it's a read. He says, I didn't have scandals, which seems like it shouldn't be something you brag about. No one in my White House ever got in trouble for screwing up as long as there was malicious intent, wasn't malicious intent behind it. Governor, I have a feeling you disagree with this.
Yeah, just a little bit. Look, there were a lot of scandals, but the difference was there wasn't a scrutiny. And you can't have the kind of scandals that we normally see in Washington if you don't have a press corps that is doing their job of being a watchdog. In the case of the Obama administration, the press wasn't a watchdog. They were a lapdog. They were a whole lot like our Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, who barely does anything other than just lay at your feet and receive all the pleasantries and the joys that you give him. That's really what the press corps was all about. I mean, look through it. You had pallets of just raw cash delivered to Iran. And what did we get out of it? Nothing. You had Benghazi, you had the IRS scandal where the government used its power to go after, punish, and destroy conservative organizations, pro-life organizations. You had federal raids on guitar companies like Gibson with armed guards rushing in, putting secretaries on the floor at the point of a gun. I mean, there were lots of scandals. Fast and Furious, yet another one. But what you didn't have, with a few exceptions, was the kind of scrutiny. A White House press briefing was a tongue bath. It wasn't really a briefing.
So, Governor, let me ask you this, because now we have this story out there that there may have been an FBI informant in the 2016 campaign of President Donald Trump. Do you believe that the media will ignore this story because we are going to have interviews taking place that go back to the Obama administration's days?
I think they're going to ignore it, Griff, until they can't ignore it. I mean, this is an incredibly huge scandal. And I don't say this just from a political perspective, but look at it just objectively from a government perspective. If, in fact, the highest levels of intelligence and law enforcement were planting spies in a presidential campaign, were getting information that would become evidence in order to injure, if not bring down, an administration. If this kind of thing were happening, then it makes any scandal during Watergate and the Nixon era absolutely look like just a simple political trick.
Yeah.
It is truly scandalous.
And Governor, if there was such a concern about Russian collusion, which it sounds like listening to leaders at the time now, there was that concern. So why not act then, before the 2016 election? Why not have the FBI get involved then? Even Barack Obama, why not take action back then?
Well, and Obama did even acknowledge several months before the election that they feared that there was some Russian interference. But here's the big question. If you have information and knowledge of that, don't you have a direct responsibility to go to the principals of that campaign, specifically Donald Trump, and say, we think you may have been infiltrated? The fact that they didn't tells me that it was a setup, that they knew that this was going on. They wanted it to go on because they thought they might be able to entrap people in the Trump campaign. This is, I think, the single biggest question in the whole thing.
Yes.
What did the president know,
and
when did he know it? And I'm talking about President Obama.
And then they weaponized it through the selective release of names and information, Mike Flynn, things like that, after the fact. It's boomeranging, if I can pronounce it, back at them.
All right.
Governor, thanks for your time. Appreciate it this morning.
Governor, thank you.
Happy Memorial Weekend. Good to see you.
Have a great weekend.
You too. All right, well, Facebook under fire for censoring conservatives. But don't worry, Mark Zuckerberg's got a solution. He wants to create his own Supreme Court for the social media platform. I'm sure that will work.
Good luck with that. Plus, we're heading back outside for our barbecue bash on the plaza. Pete has the meat sweats.
Pete, what is that?
Again.
Look at that. That is, no, that's a brisket.
It's not a big carrot
Some of the
glaze.
best in the country. No carrot there.
And a party barn strung together like a floating trailer. Let me hear you go, baby. I like it. The way you move on the floor, baby. I like it. Come on and give me some more. Oh yes, I like it. Screaming like never before, baby. I like it. I like it. Party, come on.
All right. Just like so many of you will be doing this Memorial Day weekend, we're firing up the grills at the plaza here all morning long.
Yeah, joining us now is Michael Senich. He is the executive chef and ultimate grill master for Longhorn Steakhouse. Longhorn Steakhouse?
The Longhorn Steakhouse.
Wow, okay. I've heard of it. I've heard of you guys.
It's an imaginary place we call Big Sky.
Yeah, you guys sell a lot of steaks.
We do.
What makes them so good?
So what we're here today, we're talking about Memorial Day, right? So it's one of the biggest holidays of the year to grill out. And some people aren't really comfortable on the grills. They don't grill as much as we do, right? So there can be some questions. They're not really sure what they want to do. So that's why Longhorn has the Grillers hotline. So they can call 855-LH-GRILL on Memorial Day from 11 to 5, and they'll be connected directly to one of our certified grill masters to help them with any questions they have as far as grilling, any tips, tricks.
Wait, so this is on Monday?
On Monday.
From 11 to 5.
11 to 5.
Eastern time?
Yeah, Eastern time.
Eastern time, all right, plan your clocks, and it's the 855
LH Grill. Pretty simple.
LH Grill.
Well, listen, Mike, can we cut something?
Absolutely. We got a beautiful
That's what it's all
18-ounce bone-in. This is our bone-in ribeye. So it's going to cut it right down the center here for you. We got a nice sear going here.
Did you plan it that way?
I did. I am that good.
That's amazing.
Well,
Right.
listen, we're going to cut this up. Mike, thank you. And while we do Pete's favorite thing, which is eat steak, we're going to toss the Pete.
Keep eating. We got another one over here. Just come on down the line. Joining us next, Scott Reed and Fred Smith are here from Texas Smoke Barbecue from Jefferson, New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's awesome to have you. Tell us what makes your barbecue fantastic, because I've been sampling it here.
Well, we do it all there. We do it all in-house. So all homemade, all homemade rubs. And we cook it fresh daily.
What have we got right here?
We got
Sliced beef brisket came out of the smoker a couple hours ago, just in time for the show.
Wow. And what's that glaze on top?
That's a glaze we just created just to give it a little bit of more moistness and make it shine.
How long does that take for something like this to be like that?
This one's on a smoker for 10 to 12 hours.
10 to 12 hours on location at the restaurant.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's coming out
daily.
piping hot.
Yes, daily.
Wow. And how do you replicate Texas barbecue here in New Jersey? What makes it special?
Well, we created our own rubs. It's all, based on what we learned in Texas. And we do it Texas style, so we don't add the sauce into the meat. So we keep it separate. Let the customers add it later on if they'd like, or you can have it without that. The three things about barbecue is you should be able to taste the meat, the smoke, and the spices.
Yes.
Not the sauce.
Not the sauce.
Not
Stay away-
the sauce.
If you
It's
use
used
sauce,
to enhance
you're
the
hiding the flavor, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do we got? Ribs over there too?
Absolutely.
We got St. Louis cut ribs here. We got bone-in pork butt, which is
Bone-in pork butt.
which is the top part of the shoulder. This is where you get your pulled pork from.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is doing it right. Texas Smoke Barbecue, Jefferson, New Jersey, if you're in the neighborhood. And you're going to stick around all morning for us, right? Maybe feed some
Absolutely.
troops. They're feeding the troops as well.
Yep.
Abby, into you.
Pete, bring me over some brisket. That looks amazing.
Okay, done.
Thank you. All right, turning now to some other headlines we're following this morning. Thousands of people saying their final goodbyes to a Baltimore police officer murdered in the line of duty. Law enforcement from across the state united in grief, lining the highway for miles during the funeral procession for Amy Caprio. A sea of uniforms pouring in to honor and pay their respects. A heartbroken community holding a candlelight vigil for the nearly 4-year veteran. Caprio was run over as she responded to a burglary. 4 teens now face murder charges in her death. Caprio would have turned 30 years old tomorrow. That is so heartbreaking. Also, this California woman is lucky to be alive this morning after plunging 700 feet off the side of a mountain. Firefighters rescuing the victim outside of Los Angeles after she managed to call 911. Authorities were able to track the 26-year-old's phone First responders say she was hospitalized with back pain, but luckily should be okay. No word yet on the extent of those injuries. Also this, a Supreme Court could be heading to your Facebook. CEO Mark Zuckerberg is now considering a new appeal process for users when their content is removed from their site. Listen to this.
In the community says, hey, I don't like the decision that you guys made, and I also think you got the appeal wrong. They should also be able to appeal to this broader group and have that group make some decisions that are binding for how our community operates.
All right, so that idea comes in the wake of accusations Facebook purposely censored conservative speech. Is that going to work? All right, now to a story that is guaranteed to make you smile this morning. An unexpected surprise for a little boy in Texas who has been missing his mom. Watch this play out.
I just saw my mom and I hugged her very fast on the stage to run.
How sweet is that? U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Mariana Chapman reuniting with her son named John. Chapman was deployed to South Korea back in December, but arranged a last-minute trip just in time for John's last day of preschool and 5th birthday. He has it next week. That is so adorable.
You know, you sometimes forget that the tours that the troops do in South Korea, they're unaccompanied. You don't bring your family. It's like a deployment. So what a cool video to see.
That is so
Mom's
great.
back. Love it.
All right.
All right, he's not mom, but he could be our dad. Not really. Rick,
Hey!
Rick, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you.
Rick, you are so youthful, and you just had a birthday last week.
I did, and I still could not be your dad, Pete.
I know.
Unless I was like 8 or something
I'm going to play
like
that one. I'm not going to live that down.
That's so
I'm
mean.
sorry.
Man, hey, so you know it's Fleet Week. How's Fleet Week going for you, Mickey?
Oh, it's great. I absolutely love New York.
You do? First time?
No, this is my 4th time here.
Always in Fleet Week?
No.
No?
I just love visiting here.
All right.
I'm hoping to one day be a part of the NYPD, actually.
That's amazing. All right, well, we would be lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I noticed, are you saving like the fat here, the pork belly?
Yeah.
Are you saving that for the last part?
Yes, that's my favorite part.
All right, I sat down at your plate. This is your plate. I'm going to let you continue while I do the weather.
All right.
Take a look at the weather map, show you what's going on. We do have a big storm out there. This is Alberto, and you see the center of it right off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. However, all the action is off towards the east of it, and this storm is probably going to kind of remain that way. Hurricane season officially starts next week, and we're a little bit early, but not unheard of. It is kind of unheard of for them to happen in the Gulf here. This is what the next couple of days look like. Storm probably not getting its act two together, but we'll probably be looking at maybe a pretty strong tropical storm, say Monday or so, right off the central Gulf Coast. The big story with this will be prolonged periods of heavy rain and potentially some flooding all across parts of the southeast. All right, and are you about to eat this, Laura?
About to, yeah. I mean, it looks pretty good. Pulled pork with coleslaw.
There's nothing like meat at 7:30 in the morning.
Exactly.
We do it a lot. Welcome
There's
to our
nothing
world
wrong
here.
with barbecue for breakfast. No, that's right.
Exactly. And most of these sailors right here are probably just still up from last night. Let's be honest.
I know, it's been a long night for him, and no better way to celebrate a long night than with some good barbecue.
That's right.
Exactly.
And Rick, what I meant was it was your birthday last weekend,
Yes.
and we missed it, and you got younger by a year.
Yes,
That's what I meant.
exactly. No.
So we love you. With
yes.
the fire of 1,000 suns, Rick.
Keep trying, Pete.
Yeah.
You're never going to live that one
Good
down.
dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
You're on your own.
I am on my own, literally. President Trump promised this on the campaign trail.
We are going to drain the swamp. Drain the swamp.
Now he is delivering with 3 new executive orders. Mark Short, White House Legislative Affairs Director, here to discuss that and other things next.
And this valedictorian was minutes away from delivering his graduation speech, but says the school stopped him from speaking because he was going to talk about Jesus. That student, he is joining us live. It is an interview you do not want to miss, and it's coming up next.
It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now, wait till you get older. But the media man begs to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate.
Welcome back on this beautiful Saturday morning. Well, it was one of the president's big campaign promises to drain the swamp.
We are going to drain the swamp. Drain the swamp.
Now the president signing 3 executive orders to overhaul the way government does business and making it easier to fire poor-performing federal workers.
And joining us now with the very latest, Mark Short, White House Director of Legislative Affairs. Mark, it is great to have you on this morning. Happy Memorial Day weekend to you. First, off the top, the response from the White House. This is why a lot of people voted for President Trump this last election. He was a businessman. They wanted him to go in there and do things the way a business CEO would do it. If someone does something wrong in your company, you can fire them. And that's exactly what he's saying needs to happen in the government.
Abby, you're exactly right. I think that there was no resounding cry more on the campaign trail than when the president, you just showed the clip, would say we're going to drain the swamp. It's what the American people were so frustrated the way Washington, D.C. worked. They wanted to elect an outsider to come here and clean it up. And of course, everyone who works in the federal government at taxpayer expense should be held accountable for the job that they're doing. It's common sense. And, you know, Pete, on your show there, he worked for a long time advancing the VA Accountability Act that provided the same sort of accountability inside Veterans Affairs. And that's something that we signed earlier last year. But these executive orders, I think, continue to deliver on the president's promise to drain the swamp.
Mark, that was going to be my question. So the VA Accountability Act gave certain more powers to the secretary to fire underperforming employees there. Are these executive orders a reflection that that approach has worked or is helpful at VA, and now it should be that way across the entire government?
Well, again, Pete, as you know, some of the tragedies and horrors that were witnessed during the last administration and the way that the Veterans Affairs was handled, and actually veterans dying, waiting to get care, and yet no accountability, I think the American people were outraged and say there has to be some level of accountability. And I think it's just common sense. And so those same authorities provided to the Veterans Affairs are things that we believe should be provided across the administration, including the civil service. These people work at taxpayer expense, and they should be accountable. Those who do good jobs should be promoted. But those who are not, who are underperforming, there should be a level of accountability.
Hey, Mark, let me quickly get to another topic, and that is summer starting. And this summer, the president plans to release a new tax cut proposal?
Griff, the president's been anxious to get to Tax 2.0. We look at what happened with the first tax plan. You see unemployment at 20-year low. As the president says, African-American unemployment at a historic all-time low. Hispanic unemployment all-time low. Unemployment claims at a 44-year low. The reality is the economy is booming, and it's really exciting to see. But we want to make sure is that the tax cuts provided to individuals are also extended and made permanent. And so you'll see the president probably unveil something later this summer. He's been working with Chairman Brady on that, and we want to make sure that the same corporate relief that's permanent is also provided to individuals and made permanent.
More crumbs then, perhaps. More crumbs.
All those crumbs.
Mark, one other thing to note, too, the policy, the executive order gets rid of some of that official time, which is when union employees can do political work on the government dime. It's unbelievable. So appreciate that. Mark Short, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Well, everyone has been talking about this 30-year-old man evicted from his parents' house, of course. And Mike Rowe says this is the symptom of a safe space movement. We have a panel with some life advice for those millennials next hour.
And this valedictorian was minutes away from delivering his graduation speech, but the school stopped him from speaking because he was going to talk about Jesus. That student joins us next.
I'm a gallery of broken hearts.
Welcome back. Well, Sam Blackledge worked hard in high school, going on to become co-valedictorian. But when his school officials saw the speech he was going to give just minutes before his graduation ceremony, he says they told him either take out all references to Jesus, take it out of the speech, or you're not going to speak at all. He's now calling on the school to apologize, change their policies, and protect students' speech rights. Here with more, that student, Sam Blackledge, and his attorney, Deputy General Counsel for First Liberty Institute, Jeremy Dice. Thank you both for being here this morning. Really appreciate it. So, Sam, you're the valedictorian. It means you worked your tail off for years to get that opportunity to give this speech. What happened when school officials, how did they find out you were going to mention Jesus? And what happened? What was your reaction when they said, nope, you can't speak?
I sent it, the principal requested my speech, so I sent it, the day of, a couple hours earlier, and they read it through, and then they censored it 10 minutes before they called me in the office and said, this is not appropriate for the setting, and we don't want it to become a religious ceremony. But when I found out about it, I was pretty shocked, and it was heartbreaking, basically.
Did you end up giving the speech anyway?
No, I did not. I respect their wishes, and I just gave a few remarks.
Well, good for you. I mean, to do it on your terms or don't do it at all. Well, the school district is defending themselves. This is the response that they put out as this news has carried forth about them blocking your speech. They said this: the district believes it has acted consistent with the law due to potential litigation. The district will have no further public comment on the matter at this time. Jeremy, you are representing SAM. What is the litigation you're bringing?
Well, we sent a demand letter right now asking them, as you pointed out, to apologize to Sam for ruining the only high school graduation that he'll ever have, and then making sure that we can sit down with him and I hope avoid the court so that we can straighten the situation out. Look, I don't know how many more high school graduations have to be ruined before school officials will understand that they are not permitted to censor the private remarks of students like Sam who have the right to talk to their colleagues. I hope other students throughout this country will go to firstliberty.org and what their rights are when it comes to their graduation.
Absolutely. Sam, if generally, what was your message about Jesus going to be? Your whole speech wasn't going to be about faith, but there was going to be a reference. What were you going to talk about?
Basically that in life we search for all these things: satisfaction, justice, love, and I basically said that only Christ can supply those things and to satisfy us. So we need to follow him, and
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we apologize for the tough Skype connection, but we got the basic message. Thank you for your courage, for standing up on this, for raising this issue, First Liberty, for bringing that lawsuit. We live in a world that's not freedom from religion, it's freedom of religion in this country. And even in public schools, we should be able to utter the name. We appreciate you both. Jeremy Dys and Sam Blackledge, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you got it. All right, Fox News alert. Overnight, a surprise meeting between the leaders of North and South Korea. What could this mean for that historic summit? We're going to bring it to you. Stick around.